Today on Samcraft, I bring you a story of struggle. I walk you through a challenge. This whole project was a challenge for me today, but in the end, I persevere to bring you the final product, which is a custom-made aluminum sign for my friends. Hey guys, my name is Sam and welcome back to Samcraft. That's right, today's video is a project video. It's kind of been a while since I've done one of these. This is one that I started off with a clear direction and thought in my head. And as I bebopped along making the video, doing the projects, I hit a giant brick wall. And then that brick wall turned into a cliff and I fell down into a pit. I did, however, find some rope and some options down there and pulled myself out of it to give you a final project in the end and finally see it through. So if you're interested to see a project video, I'm going to be using the waterjet cutting machine. I'll be attempting to use my Thunder laser for a little bit, and then I'll ultimately be busting out masking tape and spray paint to come up with some finished projects in the end for my friends. As we get started with this project, one brief but necessary disclaimer. I don't do this professionally. I'm not a sign maker, and I don't know that I ever want to do this again. But the things you do for friends sometimes are, well, adventures. I just wanted to make that clear as you get into this and may wonder, oh my gosh, Sam, I hope you don't do this for a living. Don't worry, I don't plan to. Okay guys, the first step of this begins for me in Lightburn because I want to import the graphic or the logo of one of our guys here and go ahead and vectorize it if need be, but then also build out the profile, the design, and get everything started. Since this will be cut on the waterjet and engraved on the laser, I just find it easier to work in Lightburn. So the first thing I want to do is import the customer's graphic, and then I'm going to scale it up so it's a little bit easier for us to see. And right now this is an image. I need to vectorize this. So I'm going to right click on the image, go down to trace image, click on OK. And what it's giving me now is the image here in the front, but behind is the vector graphic. So with the image selected, I'm going to press delete on my keyboard and I'm left with these vectors. Let's go ahead and change it to a layer that might be easier to see, especially that you can now see that these are lines. It's not a solid graphic anymore. And so from here, I can decide what I want to do to start building out my sign. As it is now, if I cut this out of the material, just the outside, it's going to be a bunch of pieces, and I don't want that. So what I want to do first is go ahead and decide, do I want the profile for the large M's up top? Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So then down here at the bottom, I think I want to simplify this and make it a little more easy to visually ingest. I guess basically what I want to do is take the rectangle tool and I want to put these guys here in a rectangle. So we'll do that. Let's go ahead and change our layer color to green. That way I can just keep track of things here visually. So this looks pretty good. I think what I'll do now, we'll go ahead and ungroup this and let's get rid of this outline because it's not going to benefit us for this portion down here. There we go. So let's go ahead and select the guys down here and do Control click to deselect these two guys and that one. So now we only have the little letters inside selected, and let's go ahead and group those. That way what I can do is I can select the letters, the mountain maker. I can then click Shift, select my green rectangle. I have these two here selected and go up top to my toolbar and basically center point. So boom, makes the text centered within my rectangle. At this point, I want to round over the corners of the rectangle. So I've selected it. I'm gonna go over here to the radius tool, click on it, and it's set to 0.394 inches. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that's good enough. It gives it a nice little round over. Not too much, but enough to give it the rounded effect, especially since up here we have the rounded outline on the larger M's anyway. And let's see what else we want to do. Let's go ahead and give this an outline. Let's see, we'll go outwards, round style, outer shapes only. Let's see if I can kind of visually match it with the outline on the M's. It looks pretty close. Okay. And so at this point, what I want to do is get rid of where the green outline and the yellow might overlap with each other. I tell you what, let me do this. Let me set these to fill, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Here where the green and the yellow overlap, I don't want that for my cutout. So I'm going to do some work there and clean that up. So that's the general overview of how I would take this graphic and work through it. Let's go ahead and use the magic of video like they do on those old school cooking shows. Scroll out of this and go over here to my final product. This is the graphic I worked on last night. And so what you're able to see here, the gray portion, this gray layer, that is my engraving. That will be done on the laser. This green outline, that's what we're going to be cutting on the waterjet. So what I want to do is select my green layer, go File, Export, save it as a DXF. Now we're going to go into the Wazer software, which is WazerCam. We're going to import this file and start our settings over here. So I'm importing the cut file, and it imports it, but for whatever reason it doesn't save the sizes. So if I flip back over to Lightburn, I can see this is exactly 11.5 inches wide. So we'll select it here. We'll go to Scale and Position. The first thing I do is put in my width, so 11.5, and then I'll go up to my X position, put it at 0.5, 0.5. And as we can see over here on the illustration, it's where we want it on the board. Next, I want to go down here and tell it what material we're going to be cutting. We are going to be using 6061 aluminum, but for this one, it is 0.125. There's not a 0.125 setting, so I'll choose 0.120. It's close enough. And then we can go on down to cutting path. I want this to cut on the outside of my line, so I'll choose outside. Click on down to tabs and leads. So for this, I do want it to have a tab, so I'll choose automatic tab placement. My tab size, I want it to be a 0.05. And the reason I'm doing this is because I was told that without any tabs at all, the software won't actually do a lead in cut, which is what I want. So I'm going to click on leads enabled. It doesn't show me where that lead is here on the Wazer software. I really wish it did. But what I'm going to do is take this little yellow dot, which is my tab, and move it over here. Well, let's say in the bottom. Let's make it to where if there is anything showing, it's pretty inconspicuous for the end result. All right, so next we'll go down to cut. And here's where we can choose our quality, coarse, medium, and fine. I'm going to choose medium because that's generally what I've chosen with the Wazer waterjet, and it's been good. And whenever I click on this, this is the important part I want you to see. Here it tells you the feed rate, the estimated job time, the amount, how much abrasive is going to be used, and the estimated cut cost. So if you're looking at this or looking at any jobs in general and you're thinking, okay, how much do I charge for machine time? It's pretty cool that they show you your abrasive cost. So that at least will tell you I'm using 2.69 pounds and it's about $2.14. If you're curious to know where this estimated cut cost is found and how it's adjusted, go up here to the settings, go to the machine tab, and here I can tell it how much my abrasive does cost per pound. So this is the default in the software and it's what I'm using for now. So here I can see this is going to cost me $2.14 on abrasive and other things. So that's cool, right? At this point, we're also good here. So let's go ahead and give ourselves a file name. That looks good. And now we'll go down here to click on Generate Job File, which will have your computer download a G-code file. You then want to stick that on your SD card and take it over to your waterjet, which is what we'll be doing next. All right, going over to the waterjet, got our little SD card of magic. It gets put in here on the side of the machine. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and load up the files into the machine and basically tell it to frame, or in this case, I think it's called, I don't know, cut extents or whatever, and make sure I got this lined up correctly for the fence that I have on my machine. All right, I took off this little rubber guy because I want to check my cut extents, and it's hard to see it whenever this shield is on there. So I'm gonna lower the nozzle just a little bit here and go over to my keypad and click on OK, because what it's doing now and what I'm looking for is that as it's going through, that it's on the aluminum. Most importantly, as it goes over here to this right side and then goes back, that I'm still on the material. I'm just barely there. but that's good. Now I know that I'm not going to be wasting my material by running the nozzle off the edge because I didn't check this the first time. Alright, what I want to do now, since I know my material is here in the correct space, so we're not going to run the file off the edge, is put 2 screws here on this far edge just to keep it in place and not allow the material to move as it gets cut. What I want to do next is run through the starting procedure of this in case this is your first time ever seeing the Wazer Pro waterjet, and let you see just the general steps for starting the machine up, loading the file, and going through the checks that it has you do. This machine is really good that it asks you yes or no, proceed to the next level type questions, which is nice, especially if you don't use the machine a whole lot or if you're new to it as well. It's nice that you don't forget stuff. Alright, here on the screen we're going to choose select cut file. We're going down to the Mountain Maker cut file, clicking on OK. It's asking me, do you want to prepare the machine to cut this file? Click yes. Now it's telling me to lift the nozzle. It wants to home the machine and press OK to home. So we'll do that. Easy enough. Now it's giving me some details about my cut file. That's fine. Click OK to go to the next portion. Here it wants to fill the abrasive hopper and or check the hopper to make sure it's full, as well as the used abrasive collection buckets. So over here on the left side of the machine, this is a drawer. You pull it out, and this is where your new abrasive goes in. This cut job needed only, I think, 4 pounds of abrasive to run, so this is plenty. So I'm good here. We can go ahead and push this back where it goes. And as far as the used abrasive collection, that's on the front of the machine right here, underneath this plastic cover that just lifts up. There are 2 buckets, one here, one there, and as you use the machine, they will get full. These are not full, so they are good to stay as is as well. Alright, we have done that, so now we can click OK. Here it wants me to confirm the water supply is on. I have a shut-off valve over here on the left-hand side. I always keep it turned off, so we'll turn this in line to make sure it's on. Click OK. Now it wants me to fasten the material to the cut bed. We've already done that, so we'll click OK. This next screen, it wants you to set the nozzle height, and what you want to do is move the nozzle over to on top of your material. So with this menu, it tells you that jog is enabled. So if I press my right, left, up and down arrows, it'll actually move the cutter head. So let's go ahead and move it to the right and then down so that now it is above our material. Now I'm going to take this little plastic cap off of the top, sit it on top of my material, place it right there, loosen the knob so the nozzle goes all the way down, and you want it to tap and rest on top of the plastic cap. That sets it the perfect distance from your material. Once you have that done, crank this down tight, remove the cap, and put it back on top. Now we have the nozzle set to the correct height off the top of the material. Back over here, we're going to press OK to go to the next. Now it wants me to either cut material, dry run, check cut extents, move origin, and so forth. I want to go down here to move origin because where I have this jogged is where it's going to start. I don't want that. So let me put the nozzle back to the left and back, and that's where I want it to start. So now we can click OK because we've moved it. And at this point, we're ready to go ahead and choose cut material. So let's go ahead and close the lid. It will not run with the lid open. And then we'll go ahead and click on this start button right here that's flashing, and we'll start the job. All right. Cut complete. Go ahead and lift this lid. Carefully push this guy back out of the way. And here we are left with the dirty finished product. So one of the cool things about the waterjet is it has a nozzle sprayer. So we can give this guy a bath without ever taking it out, which is really important. Keeps the mess inside this box. It also allows me to wash all of the abrasive that's on the top of the material back into the tank, and then I can run the pumps to recollect the abrasive. This machine doesn't recycle abrasive, but it does at least put it in its little buckets up front like we looked at earlier. It makes it easier to dispose of. So one thing I'm noting and I'm looking for, I don't see where my lead in is for this cut job. I enabled leads on this one, but I don't see anything. So we're going to have a little nasty little tab down here at the bottom to clean up. At least this is aluminum. It's soft. I can hit it with a file very easily, just hand clean it up. But it's a little bummer. I must not have done something correctly in the software to enable the leads. Either way, let's go ahead and get this material and this guy out of here and reload the others to do our other two cut jobs next. Screws have been released, and hey, check that out. The little tab held it in place, but not enough to where I have to break it off. All right, the rectangle is cut out, and so at this point I'm going to wash these guys off with some soap and water, make sure there's no grease or oil or residue on them, dry them very well, and then I'll see you guys outside where we use a special material to coat these with to prepare them to be engraved. So I'm faced with a dilemma with these things. Where the water jet pierced, it kind of abraded and it looks like smudge marks or water marks or cloudy spots on the pieces of metal. I don't like that. So I guess what I'm going to do is go ahead and sand the face of these, even though I really don't want to. I think it's going to be the only option to not have that show up. So let's just give it a shot. It's only going to get worse. Alright, I've scuffed these guys up with the sander, and what I'm going to do next is go ahead and spray them with some alcohol, just isopropyl alcohol. Wipe them down with a microfiber cloth, get off any residue, because next step is to use some of this Brilliance laser inks. This is a black metal laser spray. I'm going to coat these just like as if it was a spray paint, let it dry, and then when they go inside and get laser engraved or hit with a laser beam, this material fuses to give perfect black results. At least that's what it says. I've never used this before. Alright guys, it has been long enough. The laser and Brilliance spray has dried. So let's go ahead and take the rectangle sign in first, because if I mess something up, this is the smallest piece to be able to recreate and redo. Let's load it into the Thunder laser, which I already took a little bit of time to dial in my settings with on a scrap piece. Put it in there, line it up, and run the job and see how it turns out. So this guy is done engraving, but the real magic, and honestly the part where I'm like, okay, did it really work, is about to take place over here at old Mr. Utility Sink. I'm already disappointed. You guys may not be able to see this as well as I can, but this is washing off. This is not good. So let's go ahead and take this guy out of here. This is the last piece. 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 This is the Ugh, dang it. Well, let's rinse it and show you guys what we don't have. And that is a complete engraving, an actual nice looking end product. That's what we have. A sad, faded, partial engraving. As you saw, that was an epic fail when it came time to washing this off in the sink. The marking spray didn't work. So I took this outside, I re-sanded it, and basically hit the reset switch on this guy. I also did some good old-fashioned YouTube research and watched one of my favorite laser channels, Laser Engraving 911, and specifically his video on using this marking spray with aluminum in a CO2 laser. Kind of the same boat I'm in. After looking at his settings and adjusting for my machine power, I would have to not engrave at 300 millimeters per second, which is what this first one did. I would have to engrave at 9 millimeters per second. That gets into ludicrous land. There's no way I've got time to sit for the 9 millimeter second engrave on this. That's just, no one's got time for that. What I'm going to do instead is get some of my masking tape. This is a special 12-inch wide roll that I've used for laser cut and paint projects, and do pretty much what I just said. I'm gonna lay the masking tape down on this, squeegee it down super tight, run the laser, and effectively cut myself a stencil on here to then go back and paint and get the same effect. At least that's what I hope. So let's give it a shot and see if plan B actually works out. All right, let's give it a shot. I need to weed out what I want to paint. So the inside of the letters, and I want to leave behind the center points. Thankfully, this isn't that complicated of a logo. There we go, guys. What we're left with is what we want to paint. We have our Mountain Maker sign blank here, all cleaned off, wiped off with alcohol. I'm going to go ahead and mask off this guy. Now we'll take it over to the laser, lay it in there, and cut our stencil. All right, I'm gonna weed this one in place. Just in case I have any issues with the masking tape not cutting all the way through, I can run the job again. Several hours later, because I had to go to the store and buy paint, we're outside in the dark in our carport, but hey, I have lights. I've got the 3 signs out here. All their masking has been weeded off, and what you see is shiny. We are about to hopefully paint black. As far as what paint I purchased, it is some of this Krylon Fusion Matte Black. Hopefully it works. I'm going to be doing many very, very light coats of spray paint to build up layers very slowly with thin layers every single time. Well, our coats of paint are done, and it's time to take the mask off. Hopefully this works like I really hope it's going to work. I've heard that it's best to take your masking tape off before the paint completely dries and cures. So that's what I'm doing. Right now, it is, not coming off of my fingers. It's still a little bit tacky, but it's not wet. Hopefully I'm not messing up. Again, I'm not a professional. I'm not a professional sign maker. I'm just trying to make something for my friends and show you guys a different technique with the water jet and, well, I guess a spray can. Try and use a laser, doesn't work. It's all right. Showed you guys a spray can. Nobody's ever seen that before, have you? Well, even though things did not go at all according to my original plan, thankfully I was able to persevere, get smart, or get some ideas, remember some old skills I had tucked away in this noggin, and figure out a way to still make the signs for my friends in the end. It was a little bit of a bummer to purchase that laser spray and it ended up not working for me. It's not the fault of the product, because when I went to the manufacturer's website, they pretty much said, hey, it's not going to work that good for the thick metal aluminum sheet like you got, but I didn't look before I bought it. Either way, it's a $50 purchase that I can sit on the shelf and maybe find a use for, or if nothing else, if it helps you not make the same mistake, it'll have been worthwhile in the end. From your distance where you are, you probably would not originally expect that this was a spray painted aluminum sign, but it is. That's pretty interesting. It's actually pretty surprising. Not the technique or anything like that, but the fact that this guy was able to pull this off. I got lucky. I guess that's what it is. So this stencil is not 100%, and as you look really close, there are some jagged edges, and it kind of looks like it has been hand painted, or it wasn't just like a vinyl graphic slapped on some aluminum. I guess that's probably a good thing. It depends on what you want, right? This kind of gets into the realm of art, which I'm terrible at, and which is so subjective to the person who views it. So you may love this or you may hate it. Overall, I'm really happy that it turned out as good as it did. I honestly thought for a while there that I was about to have to scrap the entire project and come up with some other different video to make for you guys and just not tell anyone about ruining those chunks of aluminum sheeting. However, I'm glad that it did work out in the end. I'll put links to my friends' channels down below if you want to go check them out. They are both 3D print related, so if that's your cup of tea, go say hey to them from me. Tomorrow when the signs are fully cured and dried, I'll box them up and ship them out to them, but this video will probably get published before they actually receive them themselves in their hands. So guys, if you're watching the video, there's your sneak peek. Here's what you got coming, and here's the backstory behind these little chunks of aluminum that I'm sending you. If you're still here at this point and you're not one of the guys receiving the signs, I definitely appreciate you, and you are very valuable to my channel and you mean a lot to me as a creator. So if you are here, go ahead and leave me a comment down below that says pray before you spray, and I'll know that you're just awesome. Otherwise, thanks for watching as always. Take care, and I'll see you guys next time in the workshop.